Hi all. Right, let's get back to continue this Erasmus example of play, and just which is in the, maybe didn't really show this. This is the card-driven solitaire system. So it's within this. This tells you how the Erasmus kind of works. Some of the rules. You can see it might even discuss the examples of play, because I'm not being criticising them, but just saying they're doing it slightly different than what the rules say, maybe sometimes. But however, let's not go into that again. Right, I just moved my page there, probably to the wrong bit. A couple of things I wanted to mention. Now, I noticed, just looked back on that last video, and I didn't really. I mean, although we talked about it, and you probably got the gist of it, about us doing the smothering attack here. And yeah, sorry, dog's barking here, which you might get a bit more of, to be honest. So we didn't really discuss the fact that we locked this unit up. We talked about this unit. Oh, and by the way, I actually moved that into the wrong hex when I was discussing it. I noticed that should be in BIAC. The fact this is reduced, it could come and react to the battle hex. However, we would still be able to put our force, our combat strength, and destroy the air unit and not bother about that unit. However, if this unit comes along, it's a full strength unit, and because it's full strength, we need to reduce it first before we can deal the damage to the air unit. So we need to initially do 4 points of damage there, and then we're still going to do 10. And if we happen to get the quarter result, obviously we're not going to get enough, because 40 divided by 4 is 10 points of damage. So we wouldn't then take out the air unit. So I just thought I maybe hadn't made that clear. And I know my bumbling along here about supply and activation, I could probably do with having a look at the rules on that again, as I feel like I'm maybe not giving off the best sort of explanations of that. I guess maybe some of you watching will probably have a better idea and may even make comments about no, it's not done like that, Grant, it's done like this. Anyway, it's more about going through this example of play, really. It's really about that. I'm not going to change anything from the example of play, apart from the one mistake that I made, but it actually makes no difference in the end. It still carries out the same action. So apart from that one, we're going to follow what's written in the book. So if it turns out to be wrong, then there's something wrong in the book. I could just get away with it that way, I suppose. But whether I'm describing my activation path and supply path absolutely 100% positively, I'm not so sure. Because it is a tough thing to get the hang of, and then once more air's zone of influences come into it, and some other things as well, then it becomes even trickier to kind of grasp. However, so I'm just trying to find out where I was. Right, give me a second. Okay, so I'm pretty sure it's here. We're on M, and this is the task force. What was it again? Let's find that. Task force composition chart. So, and then M, is this the last objective? No. I'll just bring that in briefly. So there's M. The question is this the last objective? Well, no. And then create a new force for the target. So now we go back to the beginning of this chart and go through it all again. So let's see what it says. Yeah, and it says there, create a new force for the target. At this point, restart the flow chart and follow it again for the next target and neutralise allied HQs, which, as we know, is Singapore, and it needs a half times result. It should be the same. Let's run through it quickly. Okay. So A is yes, it's an air raid. A, the question is, I'll not jump back to the chart just yet. Or maybe, you know what, maybe we should follow the chart and then just double check it with with an example. So, A is this an air naval attack on the target? Well, it's the same thing. We want to neutralise it. We want to knock out the air unit that's over Singapore. So yes, so it's an air raid again. So then we want to activate units for the target, and we're combining the we're building the air raid with air, naval and carriers. Okay, and the two wee notes in here again remind you that you need to create a force that satisfies the damage level, but this time the damage level is 0.5, so it's half times result, so slightly less strength we need to bring. Well, depending on the defence of the unit, I suppose. But this time there's a risk, because if we happen to roll the dice and get a quarter result, we're not going to have the enough strength. So, and we also need to, the note also reminds us to check in case there's a reaction possibility. And if there is, we need to look out for that. So let's see if that's what it actually says here. So yes, air raid, and then activate units for the target. So we go through the same exercise, except it's 0.5x this time for Singapore. And looking at the board, the full strength MA air is in the hex. To eliminate that unit will require 18 combat factors. At a damage level of 0.5x, Erasmus will accept some risk here. So this is where it's taking a bit more of a chance. So it says we'll need 36 points of attack strength. Okay, well, we're going to have a look at that. So looking at Singapore this time, this is Singapore, so we're trying to knock out this headquarters now. So just make sure, if it's not in supply, then that's done our job. So it said we needed, 18 combat factors. Well, there you go, this unit's got a strength of 9. And we need to get half times result. Now, if it was the last time, a quarter times result, we would need 9, 18, we would need sorry, my bad. No, it needs 36. If it was quarter strength, we would actually need double that, because this is a 2-step unit. This isn't on its reduced side. So we need to hit this twice. And my understanding is the defense on the other side is always the same number, I think. Don't quote me on that, but it seems to be that. So this 9 will be the same on the other side, and it is. So we need 18 points of strength to knock that out. And because we're going for a half times result, if we roll half of if we just went with 18, we roll half of 18, we're only getting 9. So we need to up that to 36, so that if we roll half on a 36, we still get the 18 strength. Okay, good. Right, so rather than just jump back down to the book there, I'll just read it on. It says, so we'll activate CV Shikaku in Tokyo, Hex 3706, and the 5th AD, 5th Air Division in Clark's Field, 2812, and we'll call this Force B, and that's 2 more activations have been used, 4 remaining. Right, so I'll knock my dice down to 4 now, and then let's find these 2 units that we're going to activate. So first one was in Tokyo. Right, let's stretch up here a bit. No, so this is a carrier, isn't it? Shikaku, right, here he is. So I'll put this back on top. So we're activating him, and then we're also activating the air unit that was in Clark's Field from the start. Now, yeah, I mean, again, there's a 12 hex range from there up to Tokyo, and now we are using this HQ, so it needs to be able to trace the Clark's Field to activate that unit. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's bang on 12 again. So now we've activated that carrier, and then the air unit is just down below. So these two air units have moved in, and like I say, the ordering of things here maybe shouldn't quite go like it's going here, but I've already said I feel like it's just to keep the example of play flowing and not confuse you too much, probably. So yeah, and then both of them, this is bringing 22 strength, and the Shikaku up there you can see is 14, which gives us exactly the 36 that we need. Okay, good. So, and then moves on again, rather than bounce back here to the flowchart. It says are there enough activations to fill the battle support criteria? Well, there is. And then it moves on to Jai. Has the damage level for the target been achieved? Yes, it has. And then the box says move activated units to the target. So, in actual fact, it does say that on the actual flowchart that we would move them now. So, I don't know. Maybe it is done differently within the bot rules. Okay, so Naval move CV Shikaku to 2214 and the 5th Air Division to Kuala Lumpur 1913 through Canton and Phnom Penh, and a battle hex will be declared for Singapore. So, yeah, this time, I don't think it told us that first time about how the air units hopped over, did they? And I didn't show you at first, and I had to go and backtrack. So, Shikaku, let's move it first. I'll just zoom out a little bit. Now, it's got 15 movement points. So that's 1 to reach. Now, it doesn't need to actually enter the hex because it has a range of 3. So, it just needs to get within 3 hexes of that hex, and the example decides to put it, what did I say, in hex 2214, which is here. Right, so, and it's got 15 movement points, so let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's 2214, Grant. Right, it must be able to reach that hex. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, I took a kind of slightly detoured path there. Yeah, so he moves from there into 2214, and this is his target, so we're declaring this a battle hex as well, and it's within the range of 3. And then the air unit that's in Clark's Field gives us a route this time, like I say. It goes through Canton. I don't know where these places are. Well, there, it's up there. So it's going to do 3 hops of 4, because as you can see, it can't just fly across here. There's no base for it to satisfy its first hop. It can't reach this because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hexes away. So it's got to go up first and kind of come around. So it does 1, 2, 3, 4 into Canton as its first hop. And then the second one, Phnom Penh. Pretty sure I'm not getting that one right. Phnom Penh, is that, or is that Camran? Yeah, that's Phnom Penh there. So it does 1, 2, 3, 4 into there. So that's its second hop. And then its third hop wants to end it in Kuala Lumpur. I'll just zoom in a little bit there. And I think Kuala Lumpur's that hex, is it? Yeah, it is. So, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4 away from there. So it goes into Kuala Lumpur. And then it's got obviously 2 range to reach the battle hex. It's all good, and that's the 36 strength that we need. Good. Okay, so let's just jump back to the chart for a sec. Okay, so we've moved on. We've moved the activated units to target. We're now on to K plus L again, and that is K is, can enemy naval or ground units react to this target? And L, is this an EC offensive? Well, we know it's an EC offensive, so can there be any reaction this time? So let's go and have a look again. Okay, so we're in the same position again. Obviously this cannot react now because it's tied to this battle hex. However, this unit could still react. And just while I was thinking and watching that playthrough and remembering that I counted 25 hexes from there to there. So if for some reason there was an issue with this HQ tracing an activation path to this, which I don't think there is, and hopefully I've got that right, then if that's 25 hexes away from the one at Pearl Harbor, then it can actually activate that as well. And it's obviously in supply to that HQ as well. I think, man, some of my doubts were, does it not need to trace supply from the HQ that's actually making the activation? But I suppose if we'd done it that way, that would be fine. I could do with brushing up on these these rules. I mean, I've been through the rule book and I've been right through it once, but that was a little while ago. And I'm going through it again just now, and I've also browsed at things when I've been trying to practice a little bit. But I'm certainly nowhere near keyed up on the rules for this game. I mean, it's a 50-page rule book. Fair enough, the scenarios in the back, but there's still a lot in it, and that's before you're also trying to do this Erasmus sort of setup. Maybe not an awful lot of rules differences with it, but however, anyway, so this is a unit that can react. So we're at the same position again, but like it says in the playthrough, it says yes, but it's got to be asterisks in it, and the asterisk says technically yes, but again, CA US Asia would not change the battle outcome here, so let's not consider a pinning attack for this target. So we don't need to pin this and worry about it, because like we've said, it wouldn't affect our combat. So then we move on to, so we say, well, okay, it does, wait now, I'll show you what I'm trying to say here. Yeah, so it was K and L as a reaction, and as an EC offensive, yes. So consider performing a smothering attack. So we would consider that. We've already considered that and realised we don't need to do it. So then it jumps up to M. And M is this the last objective? And obviously the answer to that is no. We've got more we can still do. So and then we want to create a new force for the next target. So let's jumping back to the playthrough again. So that was what I said, yes, and there's the asterisk. Consider performing a smothering attack, and then move on to M. And then, give me a sec. Okay, and then is this the last objective? No. So create a new force, and there's the bit that was highlighted saying, talking about that, see the reduced unit, about not to bother with. So it now says we're out of targets for neutralize allied HQ's objective. Let me just remind you of that. So, and remember, we still have 4 activations left. So, and we were wanting to neutralise allied HQs. So we've accomplished what we needed for the Philippines and for Singapore. My thinking is it's guaranteed in the Philippines. It depends on the dice roll in Singapore, because we were only bringing the possibility of a 0.5x dice roll rather than the 0.25. But like I said, that would have needed another. Am I right in saying it would double again? Anyway, it doesn't require that. So, and then Abda's not there. So where do we go from there then? Well, we go back to where we started in aggressive air superiority. And that's just completed number 1, which is neutralise allied HQs. So now we're going to look at number 2, which is DEI surrender. So, and then of course it's got its own wee box across here. DI surrender, and slight confusion when I first looked at this. It's got Balikpapan, I think it is, Balikpapan, Tarakan. So Balikpapan, Tarakan, they're 2 different ones, and this is obviously the priority order There's a slight note about number 2, but we'll get to that. So I wasn't sure that if you needed to be able to, because this is all in step 1, that you needed to be able to do both of these. You would kind of think that was the case. Well, let's see what it says in the playthrough. Right, it says we're out of targets for neutralise allied HQ's objective, so we move on to the next objective in the aggressive air superiority strategy. DEI surrender. The first target is Balikpapan, Tarakan. The notes don't indicate that this will be an air naval attack, so the flowchart will resolve differently this time. Okay, so it's got Balikpapan and Tarakan, so they must be a combined. We've got to be able to do both of them. Okay, so let's see how it differs now. Right, so I figure we'd go and have a look and see where these are. So this is Balikpapan, and this is Tarakan. And you can see these are both resource hexes. So it makes sense. The Japanese want to try and take them out, get control of them, so that come the turn that they don't automatically get 7 cards, they've hopefully got enough of their resource hexes to be able to keep their card limit up to that 7 or maybe 6 at the worst, I think. So they're the 2 targets that we want. So now it is slightly different because whereas the first excuse me, the first instruction within aggressive air superiority had been neutralise allied HQs. This is actually to take over. This is to get DEI surrender, Dutch East Indies to surrender. Now I want to say that. So I think it's in the flowchart here. So let's just see what Dutch East Indies we need to surrender. Chalak That's the best I can do with that one. That sounds not bad. Chalak Jap, which is in 2019, and then it says plus 7 resource hexes. That's the conditions to meet. We need to control all the hexes for the Dutch East Indies to surrender. Chalak Jap's here, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think that's the 7 hexes. I was a little confused because there's one here, but this is in Malaya. There's one here, and then there's one up, just a camera shot there in Burma. But that's clearly in Burma. And then Malaya is a separate thing, I think, and you can get that to... I think you can get that to surrender too. That's probably one of the... Yeah, in fact, that would be our third option, is getting Malaya to surrender. And Malaya surrenders on Singapore and Kuantan being taken. But that means being controlled. So, I mean, at the moment, although we've neutralised, well, we're about to neutralise the HQ, there's still a ground unit, isn't there, in here controlling this hex. So that's not going to give us control of this hex, that attack. But the first part was all about getting these HQs out of supply so that then that they can't command the other units, and the units are struggling. Okay, so it's nothing to do with air. Air attacks aren't going to help us here to take these 2 hexes. We need to get a ground unit into these 2 hexes. I think it needs to be ground. Yeah, naval doesn't... I mean, naval can go in there, but to gain control of them, we need a ground unit in there. So that's our 2 targets here. So let's go back and look at the task force composition. Okay, so back at the task force composition at the start. So is this an air naval attack on the target? Well, before we were heading to the yes with us, but this time it's different. It's not. We need ground units involved here. So it takes you down to B, which is the no. Is the target a coastal or island hex? Well, both of them are coastal hexes. So yes, down to C. Can you capture the target with an overland advance? And you'll see that's highlighted, which kind of tells you there's going to be more instructions about that. So let's go and have a look at overland advance. So overland advance / AA rules, and AA means amphibious assault. So, yeah, the overland advance bit is, do we have a ground unit that can enter that hex and capture it, with overland. So that is actually going to be a no, isn't it? Yeah, because it talks potential ground attack must be large enough to capture the hex on a ground combat result of 1 times, and at least one ground step must survive enemy result of 2 times. So there's a bit of conditions involved there. And then you've also got to include potential AA reaction, and also from adjacent hexes with sufficient movement point to reach the battle hex. So there's there's a lot to take in there. So but just quickly glancing back to the situation there, now you might think, well, can this guy not get overland? Well, these are what kind of terrain? Mountain. So my guess is going to be it's 3 movement points to get in there, but I might be wrong. Yeah, it is. So even if one of them could do something, it's not got the movement points to reach one of these hexes. So that would be our only chance of an over. Now, if this unit happened to be in here, then he would be able to come in and combat that hex. However, as you can see, his 4 strength against this 6 strength would require him to get lucky with the dice, I think. I think the ground results can go 2 times, but it's not something. I think you need a 9 for it, isn't it? Ground combat results 1.5. Well, actually, 1.5 would do him there, wouldn't it? But you would need to roll high to get a 1.5 result. Plus, this is mixed terrain, I think, and mixed terrain, which is the light green ones, is actually it's worse than the jungle, I think, in some ways. They're both the same movement points to move into jungle and mixed, but I think it's when you go into if a defender in the jungle hex is a -1, but a defender in the mixed hex is a -2. So mixed is actually worse than jungle, and the fact it's this light green can certainly put you off a bit, because it looks like it would be the more pleasant terrain rather than this. But however, that's how it's done. So, and I think the map's fabulous. It's really, really well done. It's a beautiful map. So I'm not picking on anything there. It's just initially when you look at it, you think, oh, these look kind of like clear hexes, but there's actually not an awful lot of clear hexes. I think that's these ones, as you can see. I mean, there's some transport routes up here though, but some of them are active and some of them are not active and whatever. Anyway, so right, better put that guy back before I forget. So there's no unit that can overland advance into these 2 hexes, so that's going to be a no. So that was step C, wasn't it? Can you capture target with an overland advance? So no, down to D. Is the target unoccupied? Well, no, both of the units have one of the Dutch units in them. So that's a no as well. Taking us down to H here. Can enemy air or carrier units react? Oh, wait a minute, have I missed something there? D. Is the target unoccupied? No. H. Can enemy air or carrier units react to this target? Right. So I think the reason is that it's checking this first before it decides if it's going to make this, because this is going to be an amphibious assault. It's going to have to be. So we're going to have to bring an infantry unit, and I think we're going to have to bring a naval unit as well, because there's something in the hex. Right, and I think that's why it's asking this question earlier than it did before. So, well, let's just look at that. I think once I get a wee bit stuck and stumble a wee bit, it's worthwhile going back to just seeing what it says in the playthrough, the example. So, like we said, is this an air naval attacking the target? No. Is the target a coastal or island hex? Yes. Can you capture the target with an overland advance? No. Is the target unoccupied? No. Can enemy air or carrier units react to this target? Well, okay. Well, let's say no, and maybe I should have looked at that. Can enemy air or carrier units react to this target? Well, that is, yeah, we can find the answer to that. I mean, first off, the Allies have no carrier units. Okay, my guess is they've got something in Pearl Harbor still. Do they? They do have a carrier, don't they? Yeah, they've got the Enterprise and the Lexington, and the other one's reduced. Not quite sure if that was the historical outcome or not. I had watched the film Midway recently. I hadn't watched it, the modern one of that, and I don't think it gets a high rating, but I think because I was like reading the rules for this and thought, yeah, maybe. And it actually was, I quite enjoyed it because of that. I think because I was showing some interest in this game, just things were showing up. However, I can't quite remember the result. I got the feeling oh no, the Enterprise was the one that wasn't there at the time, wasn't it? I think. Yeah. Okay, well, however, whether that was the historical outcome or not, that they were still there or not. I think one of them was reduced. Was the Lexington reduced? Maybe? Okay. Anyway, they're too far away, so there's no carriers, and remember, this isn't a carrier. It's not got the range, so... and then for air units... now, I did think this time that it was possible, and there's an air unit here. And there's an air unit in here, but he's tied to a battle hex, and there's an air unit here which is tied to a battle hex. There's also another air unit up here, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that cannot get down. Yeah, it's out of range. But I did wonder about this one, and I think this is the thing that... okay, sorry about that. I got an interruption. I've got this thing that pops up on my phone every so often, some kind of app thing that I keep talking about dealing with it, but not done it yet. Yeah, so I think that's got me scratching my head a little bit, wondering about this, and then there was also another one. Oh yeah. We've got this Dutch air unit down here. So rather than me just scratch my head and wonder, because I did understand all these things, every one apart from one, which I'll bring it up when we get to it. And then the one that was a mistake, but that's been, it kind of got confirmed as being an error. Well, somebody said it was an error anyway. So let's just look at the playthrough and see what it says. So it says, it's got H there, can enemy air or carrier units react to this target? So the answer that it's coming to is no. So then it has a wee bit description here, fortunately, trying to explain why that is. So it says, this resolves to invasion with naval support. Yeah, sorry, and just to look there, if we're on H and we get a no, it goes to invasion with naval support. And we'll come back to that in a second. But it does describe... it does here say, why isn't H a yes? There are air units in Mendao and Chilwatjap, after all. Those air units, it says those air units are not in supply and can't react either because of Japanese AZOI coverage from Davio 19 long-range bomber, or because there is no joint HQ on the board Dutch here. Right, okay, that sounds like a bit of thinking needed to get your head around that one. So it says those air units are not in supply to start with. Right, well, let's have a look at that. So here's the one in Mindanao, and the other one is in Chilacap. Right, I get the one about the Dutch air unit, because the reason this unit is not in supply is the only headquarters that can supply Dutch units can activate Dutch units or give them supply, assuming. Yeah, I'm assuming they can't trace supply as well as can't be activated by. And the only headquarters that can do that are joint headquarters. And that is one like the, what is it, the ABDA one? I think that's a joint one, isn't it? So it would be able to. But however, there's none on the board yet. So this guy cannot trace supply. He's got nowhere to trace supply to. But then jump into this guy. Why can this guy not trace supply then? And I think this got me head scratching, and I'm still trying to think what is the answer to this. Because if this unit's in supply, why isn't this unit in supply? So Mindeo, those air units are not in supply and can't react either because of Japanese AZOI coverage from Davio. I think this is Davio here. Yeah. So there's carriers in here. So they are exerting a zone of influence around here. Can't react. Yeah, okay. I think I can see it. But why is that unit not in supply though? Why can he not trace supply? Because at the moment, these AZOIs are cancelled out, neutralized. So can't this? I mean, we already traced round to this, so maybe I've got that wrong then. Maybe that's not the way it can go, because if we could, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I mean, why does that not let us? Oh, hang on, we can't cross that. Well, we could have went further down and round and came in here to trace the supply, surely. Okay, so how am I missing that then? I think I've been here before. I'm scratching my head, trying to work it out. Okay, I think I've got it sussed. I'm not sure if this is how I found the solution to this before, but it might well have been. Yeah, because I'm thinking like this guy has a zone of influence as well as us, so they should cancel each other out, and I should be able to trace. I mean, yeah, I can't trace that way actually, but I should be able to trace this way and around and get that headquarters from there, and also be able to be activated by that. However, this is a long-range bomber, and it says long-range bomber units project zones of influence like other air and carrier units, but cannot be used to neutralize enemy ZOI. So I think that's the reason why. So the reason is that although he is exerting a zone of influence there, this is exerting a zone of influence there, it doesn't cancel it out, so we cannot trace out of that hex, because this is in a zone of influence right round us. And I think that's the reason why. And it does say in the playthrough there, it says those air units are not in supply which it doesn't elaborate on there. It says, but and can't react either because of the Japanese AZUI coverage from Davio, and then it's got in brackets 19 long range bomber, which is here, and then or there is no joint HQ on the board for the Dutch air unit, which I said already. The Dutch air unit needs a it doesn't even have an HQ that can supply it on the board, so it's definitely not in supply. I got that one, but it was just tough to find that, and I think that's the reason, because although this will actually put a zone of influence into this hex for this unit, I mean, it could technically put this guy out of supply if there was no other way for it to move, I think, because all it doesn't do is it cannot be used to neutralize an enemy zone of influence. So it doesn't cancel this one zone of influence out. So it means this is still surrounded in a zone of influence and cannot trace out that hex for supply. I think that's it. We'll go with that. And the playthrough does say that it basically can't trace supply, so we'll stick with that. Okay, so moving back to here. Where are we at? So yeah, what can enemy air or carrier units react to target? So that was no, and then it ends up with invasion with naval support, isn't it? So let's have just a quick look at that. Invasion with naval support is here. Invasion with that one. Invasion with naval support. It's not invasion with air naval support, is it? Yeah, invasion with naval support. So it says the force that we want are naval, ground units, ground unit AA, ground unit amphibious assault, and carriers. So that's what we're looking at bringing to this to try and take these hexes. So back to the playthrough. It says, since no damage level is specified on this target, because it didn't actually specify number. You know how we had the 0.5x and 0.25x before? So it defaults to, tells you there again, I think we just went over that recently. If no value is indicated for a target, use 1 times for ground battles and half times for air naval battles. So this is going to be, well, actually there might be some, I don't know, hang on. It's a ground battle, isn't it? So since no damage level is specified in this target, the default is assumed, which is 0.5x for air naval battles and 1 times for ground. Both targets need to be attacked in this task force. Right, so it is saying that both targets need to be attacked, so that did mean that when I did look at the full chart and it said the both names, then I'm assuming that does mean that we do need to satisfy both. Oh, and another thing, I remembered seeing, where was it that it talked about? Hang on. Yeah, it's when I'd read this bit the last time, and this is note 3, which is what bit is that tied to Grant? Hang on. Yeah, it's when we get to this box. I know I've kind of jumped away from what we're talking about here, but it just reminded me just now. Activate units for the target, and it's got 3 and 4. And I'd said before about we had to bring enough strength. We had to bring enough strength for this to happen. However, note 3 is, following the selected strategies, force composition type, activate the minimum number of units within range of the target that can achieve the damage level criteria for the hex. However, in brackets there it's got, failing that, activate as many as possible. So it's not necessarily saying that you wouldn't do it if you don't meet the damage criteria. It's just saying bring what you've got. Now, I don't know if there'd be something somewhere that said, look, that's a waste of time, don't bother bringing that, or maybe that's a decision you would have to make yourself. But anyway, so and I guess what reminded me of that was I've lost where I was. Yeah, it was when I was reading this bit, I think. So I'll just go this again. Since no damage level is specified in this target, the default is assumed, which is 0.5x for air naval battles and 1 times for ground. Both targets need to be attacked in this task force, and naval support is needed for both. Okay. Both targets need to be... Yeah, so since no level damage... Okay. I don't know how I started thinking of that, but it just reminded me of it somehow. The Dutch regiments are single-sided with 6 for defence, so a reduced strength army at 9 in both locations is sufficient to eliminate them at one time. To satisfy all this, and to continue to take advantage of the range of units coming from South Seas HQ, we'll activate CV Soryu and the 18th Army, which is a reduced army unit, in Tokyo 3706 for Tarakan, and the reduced 19th Army in 2319, and the CVL Zuho for Balikpapan, and we'll call this Force C. And then it checks I to see are there enough activations to fulfill the battle support criteria? Yes. And then Jai has the damage level for the target being achieved. Oh, well, there you go. Because if we didn't have the damage level for the target achieved, it would take us a no result there, which then takes you to a different direction. So what I've just said there about we would bring as many units as possible, and we might not achieve the damage level, then this answer would be a no. So that's interesting. That's good. And then move activated units to the target. Right, so I thought I'd get that out of the way. And, well, let's go and look at what we're doing. Okay, so it's these 2 units here, and we need naval support. We need a ground unit to attack that hex, but we need naval support because there's a ground unit already in the hex, I think. I want to say that. It does say... both targets need to be attacked in this task force, and naval support is needed for both. So I dare say if I open the rules up for... Yeah, maybe I shouldn't I? Well, we're not... This is slightly different. Oh yeah, spend on ASPs. Yeah, no, it's only if it goes to an empty hex. It doesn't spend the ASP, I think. Right, hang on. Okay, I'm just trying to get my head around the fact that these need naval support. Because it does say 8.45 is an amphibious assault. An amphibious assault may enter any non-mountain coastal hex. There's a bit about Port and Mosby there. Whether or not it contains enemy ground units. Which kind of makes me feel that they don't need to, because further down, important, if amphibious assault ground units are without an accompanying friendly naval unit, and opposing naval forces of any type end their movement in the battle hex as part of reaction movement, the amphibiously assaulting units are turned back. So, yeah, my guess is... it was back at H. That was air or carrier units, yeah. So, I think that I'm getting that thinking that this unit could react and possibly enter one of these hexes. And then if there was no naval unit accompanying the Japanese amphibious assault unit, then it would just repel it. I think. Yeah, I could have that off. Again, let's just carry on with. I guess I'm just trying to work out why these things happen, and like I say, if you were more up to how the rules, if you were more keyed up on the rules, then I dare say this would be pretty straightforward. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so we'll activate CV. Oh yeah, let's just look at the damage. It says the Dutch regiments are single-sided, so yeah, they're only one side, so they're only one steps, and they're 6 strength. So and it's got 6 defense, and remember we need a 1 times because it's a ground attack we're going to make, so we need to be able to attack that for 6. So it says a reduced strength army at 9. So an army with 9 strength. You can see one just in there. Is enough to take one of these out on a 1 times result. Now, bearing in mind, ground combat results can get reduced to half, which would be 4.5 rounded up to 5. So if we did roll the dice and get half result, then we wouldn't actually complete that. But it is saying that you only need a 1 times result if it's not stated otherwise. So we're going to bring sort of reduced armies as sufficient to eliminate them at 1 times. To satisfy all this and to continue to take advantage of the range of units coming from South Seas, we'll activate CV Soryu and the reduced 18th Army in Tokyo for Tarakan. Okay. Right, there's the reduced 18th Army on top there. And we're looking for Soryu. There he is. Right, he's a carrier this time. So we're activating that and that. And that's for... And that reduces our activations now down to 2. So we've only got 2 left. And then... That's to Amphibious Assault Tarakan. And then the reduced 19th Army in 2319 and the CBL Zwihu for Balikpapan. Call this Force C. So 2319. Right, where's that? This is further along then. And then obviously this got activated again from the South Seas. 2319. I've got the wrong number there. Yes, I've been misprinting the book. I meant to correct that actually. The pencil, hang on. Yeah, I remember that one had me scratching my head for a while because it does say that the the reduced 19th Army in Hex 2319, which is it's a way down here somewhere. Where's it? Yeah, it's here. And you can see there's nothing in there. And then eventually I found the 19th Army, and fun enough, it's that one that I just pointed out. 19th Army, reduced 19th Army, and the hex is 2913. So yeah, my guess is that's just a misprint. And I was going to correct it. Where is it? 2913. That's not made a very good job of that, but yeah. Yeah, I think this was another bit that threw me though as well, because you'll notice that both the units started in the same hex. So yeah, you feel like that unit's coming along with a carrier. And again, this could just be my misunderstanding of the rules. So we're activating this unit, but you'll notice that the naval unit that we're bringing isn't in the same hex as this. And in fact, it doesn't tell you where it is. Could it be in here? Zvehu? Yeah, it is. There, it's there. So I don't know if it needs to be in the same hex. I think there's certain conditions when it does need to be in the same hex, but maybe this case, no, it's not the case. Either that or there's something going wrong and these maybe should be in the same hex. But again, my guess is I'm maybe just not understanding the rules properly there regarding the amphibious assault. So that's our last two activations. And again, we'll stick with the example I play because that's the whole point of this. And I'll get my rulebook read up on, honestly. Okay, so we've got all the force we need. So it's time to move the activated units to the target. So it says naval move CV Soryu escorting the AA move of the 18th Army to Tarakan. So that's up there. And again, it's 15 hexes down to there. That's not a problem. So this comes all the way down to Tarakan and goes right in the hex there. So that one was, and that does say it was escorting that. Naval move, sorry, escorting the AA. See, no, it doesn't say that then. Fair enough. So, and then the other one, the Zwehu, which is just there, what it says is, then naval move, CVL Zwehu, and amphibious assault move the 19th Army. So whereas this one was escorting that all the way down, I think it means that because this is a carrier, it can move through zones of influence and cancel them out. I think that's the benefit for that, yeah. But they've got to start in the same hex. So this one did not, these two did not start in the same hex, so they can't do that. So this unit can't move through any zones of influence. So the Zwehu's going to move, is it going right into the hex as well then? I think the whole point is, yeah, it's got to, because I think that would, if we don't go in the hex, then it would let that US unit, naval unit react, I think. I think that's what it's trying to avoid. Yeah, so we'll move this into Balikpapan and then amphibious assault this. And it's not moving through any zones of influence anyway. In fact, I think they're all taken care of into there. And then because this is an amphibious assault with these army units, it says two ASPs are spent on this and 2 more battle hexes will be created. So that's another 2 battle hexes. And then I'll just show you the ASPs. So that's a spent, and the Japanese start with 7. And they just used 1, 2 there on the 2 different amphibious assaults. Now they have certain units which we'll get to, I think we'll get to soon, that can do organic naval unit transport, and they don't use an ASP to move, but we'll see that when come the time. So yeah, and I think that's where we're going to stop for now, because yeah, there's a wee review there, though. Well, let's go over that. So that's what we've just done there. So 2 more battle houses created. We're up to 9 activations, so we're done. Let's review. It's turn 2 and Erasmus is playing the Japanese Erasmus. Sorry, the Japanese. Erasmus goes first. First card play is 47, VDM, Kondo. Offensive breaks down like this. Yeah, can I carry on with this or not? Yeah, there's a bit more to do. So I think I'd like to cut it here though, because I'm running out of time at the moment. So I'll come back to this review and then we'll start rolling dice to see what the results are. So I'm pretty sure that's the way it does it. And although it's moving and then activating other units, I think it's just to keep it clear in the example, like I've said again. And it doesn't seem tough. It's not really affecting things. It's not as if you're moving things and it's not allowing the reaction on that. We were still allowing a reaction there. in between things. Right, okay, I better take a break there for now, but yeah, I'll hopefully be back quite soon. Okay, cheers.